London, 1855. The offices of Cartwright and Sons, solicitors, were hushed as Miss Clara Darlington sat rigidly in a leather chair that smelled of tobacco and privilege. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked away her remaining moments of certainty, each second dissolving what little security remained in her life. "I regret to inform you, Miss Darlington," Mr. Cartwright said, peering over gold-rimmed spectacles, "your father's debts are considerable. The creditors are demanding immediate payment." Clara's gloved hands tightened in her lap. "How considerable, sir?" He named a sum that made her breath catch. "The house on Portman Square must be sold, along with the furnishings. I'm afraid there will be little left afterward." The London season had just begun, and at 23, Clara had expected to be attending balls, not bankruptcy proceedings. Her father's death 6 months prior had revealed the first cracks in their seemingly prosperous facade. Now the foundation itself was crumbling. "I understand," she said, her voice steady despite the trembling in her chest. 5 years as a lady's companion to the insufferable Lady Harrington had taught her to conceal distress behind perfect posture. "Are there any alternatives? Unless you've a wealthy suitor hidden somewhere." The solicitor's attempt at humor fell flat. "With your education, you might secure a position as a governess." "I could make inquiries." A governess. The word itself was a sentence to invisibility, neither servant nor family, but suspended in the purgatory between. Yet what choice did she have? "I would be grateful," she said. 3 weeks later, Clara stood before the gates of Thornfield Hall in Yorkshire, her worldly possessions reduced to a single trunk. Rain drizzled from a pewter sky, soaking through her woolen cloak as she approached the Gothic manor. Turrets rose from each corner, and ivy clutched at stone walls blackened with age. It was either majestic or menacing, she couldn't decide which. The housekeeper, Mrs. Miller, greeted her with practiced cordiality. "The master is away on business," she explained, leading Clara through corridors lined with portraits of stern-faced Crawfords. "He's expected back within the fortnight. In the meantime, you'll begin lessons with Miss Sophie." "How old is my pupil?" Clara asked, removing her damp bonnet. 8 years of age, and willful as they come. Her mother, the master's sister, passed last winter. Consumption. Mrs. Miller crossed herself. The child has been here since, though the master was hardly prepared for guardianship. And Mr. Crawford? What should I know of him? Mrs. Miller's lips thinned. Mr. Caleb Crawford keeps to himself. A widower these past 5 years. He's fair but expects excellence. Don't mistake his reserve for approval. She paused before a door. These are your quarters. Breakfast is at 6 sharp, lessons begin at 8. Good evening, Miss Darlington. Alone in her sparse but clean chamber, Clara unpacked her few possessions, books, a miniature portrait of her parents, and letters from her one true friend, Elizabeth, now married in Bath. The life she'd known, the musicales and morning calls, the delicate dance of society, was gone. Now she must forge a new existence on the strength of her wits and education. Sophie Crawford proved to be exactly as described, willful, bright, and testing every boundary Clara attempted to establish. Their first week was a battle of wills, with the child determined to send this governess fleeing like the 2 before her. "You'll leave too," Sophie declared on their 7th day, refusing to complete her French exercises. "Everyone leaves Thornfield eventually." Clara set down her book. "Is that what you want? For me to leave?" "It doesn't matter what I want," the girl replied with a worldliness that pierced Clara's heart. "Uncle Caleb says the estate is failing. Soon we'll have to leave anyway." This revelation gave Clara pause. The grand house showed signs of neglect, furniture worn but not replaced, fewer servants than a house this size warranted, but she had assumed it was merely economy, not desperation. "Estates can be saved with proper management," Clara said carefully. "Not ours. I heard Uncle and Mr. Graves talking. They said only a fortune or a marriage could save Thornfield now." Sophie's small shoulders lifted in a shrug. "But Uncle never goes to London anymore, so where would he find a wife with money?" Clara changed the subject back to conjugating French verbs, but Sophie's words lingered. That evening, when the child was abed, Clara explored the vast library. Shelves stretched from floor to ceiling, filled with volumes on every conceivable subject. She ran her fingertips along leather spines, inhaling the comforting scent of paper and binding glue. "You won't find the estate ledgers there, if that's what you're looking for." Clara whirled around. A tall man stood in the doorway, his face shadowed. He stepped forward, and lamplight revealed sharp cheekbones, dark hair shot with silver at the temples, and eyes the color of a winter sea. "Mr. Crawford," she said, cursing inwardly at being caught wandering. "I wasn't aware you had returned." "Evidently." His voice was deep, with the refined accent of good breeding and education. "You must be Miss Darlington. Mrs. Miller speaks highly of you, though Sophie seems determined to form her own opinion." "As she should, sir. Intelligence should never be discouraged, even when inconvenient." A smile flickered across his face, transforming severity into something almost handsome. "An unusual philosophy for a governess. Perhaps that's why I'm only just becoming one." His gaze sharpened. "Indeed. Mrs. Miller mentioned you were previously a lady's companion. Quite a change. Necessity makes adventurers of us all, Mr. Crawford." He studied her for a long moment. "So it does. Good night, Miss Darlington." After he left, Clara released the breath she'd been holding. She had not expected him to be so young, perhaps 35, nor so observant. She would need to be more cautious about her curiosity regarding Thornfield's finances. Over the following weeks, Clara settled into the rhythm of life at Thornfield. Sophie gradually surrendered to Clara's patient but firm guidance, revealing a quick mind beneath her defiance. Mr. Crawford remained an enigma, often absent for days at neighboring estates or on business in York. When present, he occasionally joined them for dinner, asking Sophie pointed questions about her studies. "Your influence shows," he told Clara one evening as Sophie demonstrated her improved French. "She hasn't thrown a book in nearly a month." "She doesn't need to," Clara replied. "She's discovered words can be more effectively wielded than hurled." That earned another rare smile. As autumn deepened into winter, Clara became aware of strange noises in the night, footsteps in the unused north wing, whispers behind closed doors. When questioned, Mrs. Miller dismissed her concerns. "Old houses creak, Miss Darlington. Best not trouble yourself about it." But Clara's suspicions grew when she discovered a locked door on the third floor. Sophie claimed ignorance when asked, though her eyes slid away too quickly. Mr. Crawford became more withdrawn, disappearing for longer periods, returning with a haggard look that spoke of sleepless nights. In December, Clara overheard an argument between Mr. Crawford and Mr. Graves, his steward, as she passed the study. "The bank won't extend further credit," Mr. Graves insisted. "Without immediate funds, we'll lose the East Fields by spring." "I'm aware," Mr. Crawford replied sharply. "There are possibilities I'm exploring. Forgive me, sir, but unless you've a fortune hidden away or plan to wed an heiress within the month, those possibilities seem limited." Clara moved away, unwilling to be caught eavesdropping a second time, but the conversation confirmed Sophie's earlier claim. Thornfield Hall was indeed in peril. That evening, a letter arrived from London that sent Mr. Crawford into a frenzy of activity. Trunks were packed, the carriage ordered for dawn. Before departing, he summoned Clara to his study. "I must go to London on urgent business," he explained, sealing documents with red wax. "I may be absent some weeks. In my absence, you are to admit no visitors, regardless of their claims or connections." "Is there some danger, sir?" Clara asked, alarmed by his intensity. He hesitated. "Not danger, precisely. But there are those who might take advantage of my absence. Sophie trusts you. Keep her safe." After he left, a strange pall fell over Thornfield. Mrs. Miller became more taciturn, the servants whispered among themselves, and Sophie grew increasingly anxious. One night, awakened by what sounded like sobbing, Clara followed the sound to the locked third-floor room. "Who's there?" she called softly, pressing her ear to the door. Silence fell immediately. Then, footsteps retreated from the door, and a woman's voice, not Sophie's or Mrs. Miller's, whispered something unintelligible. The next morning, Clara confronted Mrs. Miller. "There is someone in the north wing. I demand to know who." The housekeeper's face drained of colour. "It's not my place to say, miss. The master has his reasons." "Is someone ill? Being kept against their will? If there's wrongdoing, no." Mrs. Miller's vehemence startled them both. More calmly, she added, "There's no wrongdoing, Miss Darlington. The master protects his own, that's all. Please, for your sake and Sophie's, ask no more questions." But questions multiplied when Clara discovered a torn newspaper in Mr. Crawford's study, with a circled advertisement seeking information on one Caleb Crawford of Yorkshire, regarding a substantial inheritance from a distant relation in the West Indies. Before she could investigate further, catastrophe struck. A letter arrived from Mr. Crawford's London solicitor, addressed to Mr. Graves. The steward read it with mounting distress. "We are ruined," he announced to Mrs. Miller and Clara that evening. "Mr. Crawford's last hope of investment has fallen through. The bank will foreclose within the month." "What of Mr. Crawford himself?" Clara asked. "Still in London, attempting to negotiate terms. But without a miracle." Mr. Graves shook his head. That night, Clara made a decision born of desperate circumstances and something deeper she was not yet ready to name. She penned a letter to Mr. Crawford in London, proposing a solution that would have shocked the Clara of 6 months ago. A week passed with no response. Then, on a bitter January morning, Mr. Crawford returned, his face grim with resolve. He requested Clara's presence in the study immediately. "Your letter," he began without preamble, "suggests a marriage of convenience. You offer your name and reputation in exchange for security for yourself and Sophie, should I save enough of the estate to maintain you both. A practical arrangement." Clara lifted her chin. "I believe it is." "Why?" His gaze was penetrating. "You're young, educated, not without charm. Surely there are better prospects than a failing estate and a man nearly 15 years your senior." "I have no prospects, Mr. Crawford. My father's debt saw to that. I've grown fond of Sophie, and Thornfield could be great again with proper management." She hesitated. "And I believe you are a good man, despite your secrets." He flinched at that. "You know nothing of my secrets, Miss Darlington. I know enough to understand you're protecting someone in the North Wing. I know you've sacrificed to keep this estate, not for pride, but for Sophie's future. The rest—" She took a deep breath. "The rest can remain your own." For a long moment, he said nothing, studying her as if seeing her truly for the first time. Finally, he nodded. "Very well. I accept your proposal, Miss Darlington. We shall be married by special license as soon as it can be arranged. But understand this, there will be no changing your mind once done. Marriage is binding, whatever its foundations." The wedding took place 3 days later in Thornfield Small Chapel, with only Mr. Graves, Mrs. Miller, and Sophie in attendance. Clara wore her best gown, navy silk, now somewhat outdated, and carried winter holly instead of flowers. Mr. Crawford, Caleb, as she must now think of him, spoke his vows clearly, the gold band he placed on her finger gleaming in the candlelight. There was no wedding breakfast, no celebration. Afterward, Caleb retreated to his study while Clara found herself suddenly mistress of a failing estate, with servants looking to her for direction she was unprepared to give. "It will get easier," Mrs. Miller assured her that evening. "The master did the right thing, marrying you. You've a good head for management, and he needs that now more than ever." "He needs funds more than management," Clara replied. "And those I cannot provide." "Perhaps. But there's more than one way to save Thornfield." That night, Clara lay alone in her chamber, not her husband's, wondering what strange bargain she had struck. Marriage without love was common enough among the gentry, but without even the pretense of courtship, without fortune on either side to recommend it, what did they have? Her new position did grant her one advantage, access. The following day, while Caleb was surveying what remained of their lands with Mr. Graves, Clara used the master key to unlock the mysterious third-floor room. Inside, she found a modestly furnished bedchamber. A woman sat by the window, embroidering thin, with faded beauty and eyes that darted nervously to the door as Clara entered. "Who are you?" the woman demanded, rising. "I am Clara Crawford, Caleb's wife." The woman blanched. "Wife? He married you yesterday. And you are?" A bitter laugh escaped the woman. "Catherine Crawford, his first wife." Clara staggered backward. "That's impossible. You died, consumption, 5 years ago. Did he tell you that?" Catherine's smile was brittle. "How convenient." "No, Mrs. Crawford, I am very much alive." "Merely inconvenient." "I don't understand." "Of course not." Caleb always did prefer ignorance in his companions. Catherine gestured to a chair. "Sit. If you've married him, you deserve to know what manner of man shares your bed." "He doesn't," Clara said reflexively, then flushed at the admission. Catherine's eyebrows rose. "Interesting. Well, the truth, then, I am not dead, but I am dying. Not of consumption, but of a disease of the mind. Fits of madness, the doctors called it. Episodes where I become." She looked away. "Someone else. Violent. Dangerous. And Caleb keeps you here? Instead of an asylum?" Catherine's voice sharpened. "Oh, he considered it. My family insisted. But Caleb refused to abandon me to such a place. So instead, he created this prison. A comfortable one, with Mrs. Miller to tend me, but a prison nonetheless." Clara's mind raced. If Catherine lived, then Clara's marriage was no marriage at all, but bigamy, a crime. Yet Caleb had accepted her proposal, knowing this. Why? What possible purpose could a false marriage serve? "Does Sophie know?" she asked. "Sophie is my daughter," Catherine replied. "Of course she knows. She visits when I am myself. When the darkness comes, Caleb keeps her away." Clara fled the room, thoughts in turmoil. In the corridor, she nearly collided with Caleb himself, returning early from his estate business. "You've been to see her," he said, taking in her ashen face. "Not a question." "You committed bigamy," she replied, voice shaking. "You've made me party to a crime." He seized her arm, pulling her into an empty room. "Keep your voice down. The servants know, I suspect. Everyone knows except me." She wrenched away from him. "Why? Why this charade of marriage when you have a living wife?" "Because Catherine is dying." His voice broke on the words. "Truly dying, this time. The episodes grow worse, more frequent. The doctor gives her months at most. And when she's gone, the creditors will descend like vultures. I needed a mistress for Thornfield, someone Sophie trusts, someone to maintain appearances while He stopped abruptly. "While you what?" He turned away. "It doesn't matter now. You'll want the marriage annulled, of course. I'll arrange passage to wherever you wish to go." "That doesn't answer my question." "While you what, Caleb?" He reached into his coat, withdrawing a folded paper. "This arrived this morning. The advertisement you found was genuine. A distant cousin in Jamaica died without direct heirs. His solicitors have been searching for relations. The inheritance, it's substantial. Enough to clear the debts, restore Thornfield, provide for Sophie's future." Clara stared at him, comprehension dawning. "You knew about this inheritance when I proposed marriage?" "I suspected. Nothing was confirmed until today." "Then why accept my proposal at all? Why not wait?" His eyes met hers, storm-grey and troubled. "Because you offered what money cannot buy, a mother for Sophie. Stability. A partner I could—" He checked himself. I thought we might build something. After Catherine. A partnership founded on lies. Clara's voice trembled with anger, with hurt deeper than she'd expected to feel. Yes, he admitted. A selfish decision I already regret. The annulment is impossible, she interrupted. An annulment requires disclosure of your bigamy. You'd face imprisonment, Sophie would lose everything, and Catherine's final months would be spent in scandal. Is that what you want? He stared at her. What are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm stating facts. We are bound in this deception, at least until. She couldn't finish the sentence. Until Catherine passes, he completed quietly. And then? Clara lifted her chin. And then we shall see what remains to build upon. The weeks that followed were strained with unspoken tensions. Clara divided her time between Sophie's education, managing the household, and visiting Catherine, whose lucid periods grew fewer as her condition deteriorated. During these visits, Clara learned the woman's history, her prestigious family, her love match with Caleb, the gradual onset of her illness after Sophie's birth. He was different then, Catherine told her on a rare good day. Laugh more. The burden of my care has changed him. He seems devoted to you still, Clara observed. Catherine smiled sadly. To his duty, perhaps. Love died between us long ago, buried under fear and resentment. But he is a good father to Sophie. And a good husband to you. A jailer can be kind without being a companion. Remember that, Clara. When I'm gone, don't let him lock away his heart as he's locked away his wife. Meanwhile, Caleb travelled to London to settle the inheritance matters. He returned with news that the Thornfield debts were cleared, the estate secure. The servants received their long-delayed wages, repairs began on the aging roof, and fresh paint brightened the faded grandeur of the main hall. Yet physical distance remained between the supposed newlyweds. They spoke cordially at meals, consulted on household matters, but Caleb maintained his separate chamber, and Clara made no overtures to bridge the gap created by his deception. In March, Catherine's condition worsened dramatically. The local doctor was called, followed by a specialist from London. The verdict was unanimous: days, perhaps a week remained. On her final night, Catherine asked to see Clara alone. You love him, she whispered, her once beautiful face now sunken and grey. Clara started to deny it, but Catherine raised a skeletal hand. Don't lie to a dying woman. I've watched you together. The way you look at him when you think no one sees. The way he softens when you enter a room. He deceived me, Clara said. Yes. To protect Sophie. To protect me, in his way. Men often confuse protection with possession. Catherine's breathing grew labored. But he sees you, Clara. Not as an ornament or a convenience, but as yourself. That's rare. I don't know if I can forgive him. Forgiveness isn't given because it's deserved. It's given because withholding it poisons only yourself. Catherine squeezed Clara's hand with surprising strength. Promise me you'll try. For Sophie. For the man he could be again. Clara wept as she promised, and Catherine died before dawn. The funeral was small, attended only by family and the household staff. Sophie clung to Clara throughout, her small face solemn with grief but not surprise. Afterward, Caleb retreated to his study, emerging only when required by absolute necessity. A week passed, then two. The solicitor came to finalize Catherine's affairs. All legal documents had long ago been prepared for her official death. Clara found herself in the strange position of publicly mourning a woman whose existence had been denied, while privately grieving the husband who lived but remained unreachable. On a rain-swept April evening, Clara sat in the library, reviewing the household accounts by lamplight. Sophie had been abed for hours, the house quiet save for the drumming of raindrops against the windows. She didn't hear Caleb enter until he spoke. You're still here. He stood in the doorway, hair damp from the rain, a haunted look in his eyes. Clara set down her pen. Where else would I be? Anywhere. London. Bath. You're free now. He approached slowly, as one might approach a wild creature. The marriage can be legitimized or dissolved, as you wish. Either way, you'll be provided for. And Sophie? Sophie adores you. But I wouldn't use her affection to trap you here. Clara studied him, seeing the toll grief had taken, new lines around his eyes, a gauntness to his cheeks. Is that what you believe? That I feel trapped? Don't you? He sank into the chair opposite hers. I lied to you. Used your proposal for my own purposes. Bound you to a household in mourning. Yes. Clara rose, circling the desk to stand before him. You did all those things. But you also created a sanctuary for a woman society would have discarded. You protected your daughter at cost to yourself. You showed me kindness when you could have treated me as the servant I was. Small virtues against considerable sins. Perhaps. But Catherine asked something of me before she died. Clara knelt beside his chair, taking his hand in hers. She asked me to forgive you. To see the man you could be again. His fingers tightened around hers. And can you? I already have. The admission surprised her with its truth. The question is whether you can forgive yourself. Caleb's other hand rose to touch her cheek. I don't deserve you. Probably not, she agreed, bringing a startled laugh from him. But marriage isn't about deserving. It's about choosing, day after day. And I choose this, Thornfield, Sophie. She drew a breath. You. Clara. Her name was a prayer on his lips. If we do this, truly marry, there must be no more secrets between us. No more locked rooms, she agreed. No more hidden truths. No more separate chambers, he added, his voice deepening. Heat bloomed in her cheeks. That, too. 3 days later, they stood again in Thornfield's chapel, this time with a different clergyman, with Sophie beaming beside them and the household staff in attendance. Clara wore a new gown of ivory silk, purchased with her husband's newly restored funds. When Caleb placed the ring on her finger, the same gold band, now blessed with honest vows, his hands were steady, his eyes clear with certainty. The wedding breakfast that followed filled Thornfield's renovated dining hall with laughter and light. Clara, watching Sophie dance with Mr. Graves while Caleb conversed with neighbors long estranged, marveled at the transformation of the once gloomy manor. Later, as twilight painted the library in amber and shadow, Caleb found her alone by the window. Happy, Mrs. Crawford? He asked, arms encircling her waist from behind. Clara leaned into his embrace. Yes. Though I must warn you, I've developed quite expensive tastes during our courtship. All these new gowns, the redecorated chambers. Fortunate, then, that my secret fortune has changed everything, he murmured against her ear. Not everything, she corrected, turning in his arms. Some things changed long before the money arrived. His kiss was answer enough, tender, then deepening with promise as the first stars appeared over Thornfield Hall, their light falling on two souls who had found, against all odds, that the greatest fortune was the love they'd built from ruins.